Hello everyone, welcome. My name is MJ Pestridge. Welcome to another P3D video, and today I want to discuss P3D version 5. It's been out for a couple of years now. Came out April 2020, and I want to discuss the sad state of the future for P3D version 5. I don't think it's had a real fair go in the community, and so I just want to sort of lay a few myths to rest here about that software, and actually talk about some of the benefits of it as well at the end, that people probably are unaware of. But first, I'm going to talk about a quick history of the P3D version 5 software, and how it came about, because the Microsoft Sim had a very big impact on P3D version 5, and I don't feel developers have given P3D version 5 its true justified time of day, and I think the community kind of didn't get to see the very best of P3D version 5, and as it states now, it's still kind of also in a little bit of a development, because we're on 5.3 currently, and you know, some features have just come out of beta in the software, and you know, other features are yet to be implemented, and Lockheed Martin, I'm sure, are going to be perhaps maybe offering some performance tweaks in the near future. But P3D version 5, say it came out in April 2020, and it was mere months before the Microsoft Sim came out, and the Microsoft Sim plays a very big part in P3D version 5, because in 2019 in autumn, that was announced. Microsoft announced that they were bringing back to the community a flight simulation, a flight simulator which looked amazing on the Xbox Game Pass trailer video, and announced that you could actually sign up and become like an insider, and get, you know, early access to information about it, which, to be honest, as soon as I saw the trailer, I signed up. I probably was one of the first people to sign up to that program, which would then eventually go on to do alpha and beta testing for the software before it came out. But I don't think that Lockheed Martin had planned to release P3D version 5 in April of 2020. I think that that was kind of almost a knee-jerk reaction to when the world learnt of the release date of the Microsoft Flight Sim platform itself, which was August of 2020. I think Lockheed Martin thought, well, we're going to miss out on sales if they release first. No one's going to want to purchase our license. Even existing customers may just go, what's the point? This looks amazing, I'm going to go for that. It's all, you know, Microsoft advertised their sim as an all-in-one. You know, you don't need to update, you don't need to add on. You know, they're long gone days. It was advertised as a, here you go, it's ready to go. Obviously, they laid out an infrastructure of what they wanted, which was, you know, using Asobo Studios as the creators of the flight sim. They were basically saying that we really want to make this with the community. We want the community's input. We want you guys to tell us what you want in the sim, and we will implement that in. Kind of a lie, because at the end of the day, Asobo Studios, Microsoft, have a game plan for the next 10 years, which we are 2 years into that game plan. And they have their own strategy for how they're going to develop the sim, in the way they're going to develop the sim, and who they're aiming for. Obviously, you know, Microsoft publishing this, and it has come out on the Game Pass, both on console and PC. You know, this was their strategy from the very beginning, back in 2019, when they announced it on the Xbox Game Pass showcase for the console, you know, which I found a bit weird at the time, but it was announced like it would be for PC in the next, I think it was in 2020 they announced that it was going to be for PC initially, you know, and then maybe later down the line console. But in my eyes, I believe Microsoft were always aiming for console, to be honest, because Microsoft have amassed millions of users in their video game industry. You know, the Xbox consoles have sold very popular. You know, I think they're up to generation 5, and you know, they have millions of buyers. And so they know exactly how many people are on the PC or on a console, and they know exactly if they, you know, give this to those users, then they're potentially opening up a massive floodgate of business for the flight sim community. And this had a major impact on version 5, because prior to that announcement from Microsoft, P3D and X-Plane and DCS World were kind of like the only sims, and FSX kind of like a separate, the same as P3D. But developers concentrated on those platforms, you know, mainly X-Plane, P3D, and FSX, really. There weren't any other sort of platforms that were taking their time, you know. So, to be honest, there's not a lot of crossover, you know. UK 2000 only made airports in the UK. PMDG sort of stuck to licensed Boeing planes. Aerosoft became kind of an all-round jack of all trades and a publisher, and Orbex, you know, stuck to scenery and airports, and then recently have partnered and opened up their app to having airplanes and other things and other developers' products on their central app as well. But in all honesty, everybody's kind of stuck to their own areas, and so development for those sims was fairly straightforward. You know, you guys do the airports, and I'm going to do the planes, and nobody really kind of stole business from anybody, you know. And you know, taking UK 2000 as an example, because they are, from what I understand, one of the oldest developers in flight sim as well. They go back to, you know, flight sim 2000. 2004 days. And for FSX, you know, their software, the Extreme series, was very popular, regarded as the best as UK airports packages, you know. And when P3D got the license, the API engine off Microsoft, and then reworked it for their own purpose and brought out P3D version 1, the file structure, the folder structure was identical. So, you know, developers like UK 2000, like Orbex, could easily sort of just port the FSX and just change the installer path, change the registry within Windows, and now we've got a separate product for P3D users. And it didn't really require that much tweaking on the internal files, because P3D version 1 was pretty much a more refined version of FSX. That was it. And so, in going along in the future, P3D version 2, 3, 4, developers got into a lazy habit of just porting over their product, not really reworking it, you know, to take, or, you know, not needing to rework it. Just, you know, it hasn't changed from what the airport is going to install into the sim like. It's going to still work exactly the same. So we just change the registry, we just change the file location. That's it. You know, the installer now gives you the options of P3D version 1, 2, 3, you know, or FSX, and then boom, it's done. And now we've got 4 sims that we're aiming for here. And then P3D version 4 came along, and Lockheed Martin had changed the 32-bit nature of the sim into a 64-bit sim, and had actually changed the sort of shell of it. So it was registering as a 64-bit sim. But a lot of the internal organs, as it were, of that sim were still 32-bit. So developers in the add-on field didn't really need to update to 64-bit. Some did, but most didn't, because it wasn't necessary. You know, it didn't make a performance any better. It was more for what kind of PC is this going to be installed onto, a 32-bit one or a 64-bit one. And so I think developers got into a really nasty habit of just doing a bare minimum and porting over their products. And so when version 4 came out, yes, there was PBR ability now. Yes, there were new features that developers could take advantage of. But instead of reworking their existing products, like UK 2000 just brought out a HD series instead. you know. And so you had the extreme products, and now you had the updated version as a separate new product, HD series. And this took advantage of certain features within the current sim. And now we go on to version 5, and again Lockheed Martin have introduced new features such as EA, Enhanced Atmospherics. It was in a beta state, and it basically was a switch to say you can run the sim, which had a new DirectX 12 API sort of environment. It had refinements under the hood that really didn't affect how you install your airports or airplanes. They were moving their coding into the HTML5, so developers could utilize that in a safer way than it was previously. XML was also being introduced to use as an add-on, in version 4, so it was more refined in version 5, and so you could install into as an XML file instead of into the sim, which means there were a lot of changes from version 4 to version 5, but for the developers, they could have gotten away with just literally doing a port over job as well. And if people didn't activate EA, which was basically, it changed the entire structure of the sim from a CPU based sim to a GPU based sim. Now it had new shaders, it replaced all the skies with shaders instead of textures, so the lighting was more dynamic and affected in real time what it reflected off of and onto. And so it really, that EA beta switch in 5.0 was really a P3D version 4.5 switch. If you turned it off, you basically had P3D version 4. If you turned it on, you're taking the full advantage of the features of version 5 and showing the sim for what it should be, But developers really, a lot of developers just work their add-ons for version 4 and port it over to version 5 and hoped people didn't activate the V5 switch, as it were, with EA. And so I know a lot of developers and people in the community, when version 5 first came out, they really poo-pooed the sort of EA True Sky enhancement and really pushed the sky textures, sky colors as textures, rather than using shaders, which for me, shaders performs better on a GPU than textures do on the CPU. And it looks a lot better. It looks more realistic, and it actually doesn't take that much to run it. Performance is better, especially with night lighting. Its performance is so massively improved. I use Creative Design Studio's Black Marble night lighting system, and their add-on sort of to that, which was night environment. And that really does take a lot of CPU power in P3D versions 1 to 4. If you use their extended, you're sort of using the PBR version, so your GPU now does it, and you get a massive performance boost, and in version 5, everything is run off the GPU, so everything runs much better than it did in version 4. And so, basically some developers took advantage of these features. PMDG did. They reworked their 777, the 747, the 737, turned it into an NGXU, resold it, and now we had, better planes that were directly aimed for version 5. But then we had developers like Aerosoft just porting over, doing the bare minimum, making sure as long as it works, we don't need to take advantage of all the features, and really not concentrating on P3D version 5 anymore. Why? Well, because the Microsoft Sim, once it was announced that if you're a game designer or a developer, that you can have an early access beta copy and you can begin designing add-ons back in 2019, ready for the 2020 launch. So you'll be the first one at the door, collecting those sales for the millions of video game users that Microsoft were aiming their product at. And for a flight sim developer, having millions of potential sales even if you're just selling at a tenner a piece, man, you're gonna make like 10 million. You know, if 1 million people bought this at a tenner a pop, you're gonna make so much money that you had to do it as a video, sort of as a flight sim developer, you know, third party. So once they got their hands on the beta copy, you know, I was on the alpha, I was on the beta, you know, it was okay. You know, it's not as refined as it is now, you know, but for the developers, they were like, oh my gosh, you know. So they hurriedly made, you know, add-ons for Microsoft ready for the launch. And really, some, you know, developers, and I'm going to take UK 2000 example here, is a one-man band. So you've only got time to work on one thing at a time. So making a choice of, I'm going to put all my eggs into Microsoft's basket now and just, you know, let the community work out the rest for P3D version 5. Like, I'll make it work with the installer, but as far as introducing new features or developing up my products, I forget it. I've got more time better spent in Microsoft because I'm going to make loads more money. More so, in fact, that UK 2000 actually now does airports outside of the UK and steps on the toes of other people in the community by trying to grab those sales elsewhere as well as the UK, because people are encroaching on their territory now. You know, there's developers like Orbex and other people who are now making UK airports, you know, to grab that money. I mean, developers have become very vicious now in the community from what they once were. You know, segregated to their own sections of the world. You know, Orbex became known for Australia, UK 2000 for the UK. And now it seems that everybody's biting at everybody's ankles. The Microsoft Sim looks great, but it's really brought out a division in the existing community and brought in that many more community members that the community now is a very mixed bag, you know, and it's a very good community. But the original one it's a very split community. You're either on the Microsoft bandwagon or you're not. Me, myself, after alpha testing, beta testing, and using the released version, I actually prefer P3D version 5. It has so many more benefits in terms of flexibility. You don't have to update it if you don't want to. You get to utilize 20 years of add-ons, and if they truly are compatible and work with the software without crashing it, you've got FSX add-ons to use as well as all the other P3Ds, which I really honestly do, and it is a stable sim. It allows me to do it exactly how I want to do it. I can tweak that sim to the way I want to see it. I'm not forced to have it this way, and that is it. Obviously, P3D version 5 is a older, you know, system of flight sim, you know, coming from 2004 technology, you know, but I think Lockheed Martin have done an incredible job to get it looking about 80% of what the Microsoft sim does look like, and that sim was made in the last 5 years using more current technology. So I think Lockheed Martin have actually done a lot better than Asobo Studios have, because Asobo Studios have been working on this software, I think, for about 7 years now. And we're in the second year into its actual public release, and to be honest, it has changed quite a lot, but it also hasn't at the same time. It still kind of does look like it did at launch, and you know, there are more things in the sim now, but not many great leaps forward. Whereas P3D version 5, when it first released, you had the choice of using it in the old style like version 4, you know, or activating True Sky, taking advantage of the current tech that they had put in. You had new water wave animation, the Waterworks program they'd introduced, as well as the True Sky, you know, for the skies. Like, they really reworked the sim and sort of introduced newer tech into an older sim. And you know, it is a great looking sim if you get it tweaked just right and you tweak it with your hardware as well. You know, there is additional things else to do from the user end, but if you get it right, man, you have got a sim that you're going to love, with aircraft fidelity that does far exceed Microsoft. You know, There is no decent 747 or 777 in the Microsoft Sim yet. 737 has only just been introduced 2 years after its sort of release, and users are now being able to use high fidelity aircraft in Microsoft Sim, but there are still restrictions, a lot of inoperable buttons, a lot of things that don't work as intended like they do in P3D. So P3D still has advantages over Microsoft. Microsoft has advantages over P3D. It's really more of a preference. But what I'm talking about here, though, is the developers, the third-party developers who basically jumped ship when P3D version 5 was launched, didn't actually update their add-ons properly to the way they should have, because they've been so in the habit of just porting over from a previous version that they rushed to do that because they wanted to make money with Microsoft. And that's a business decision, and it's a smart one to make if you want to carry on in the future. But a lot of developers like UK2000 and other people made the personal choice to just abandon the previous softwares, which meant abandoning version 5 before it even got started, really. By May and by August of 2020, developers were dropping off slowly. PMDG still support P3D, A2A still do, and a handful of other developers have not abandoned P3D version 5, but even Aerosoft have stated that they no longer support, which is a real bad term to use, because if you buy a product for that sim, you're in a contract to support them, and now you're breaking that contract of support. But it's all in the terms of service, isn't it? Terms and conditions. And even they've abandoned P3D version 5, and I just feel like so many third-party developers haven't actually taken the time. Don't get me wrong, there have been developers who have taken the time to upgrade and rework their add-ons properly, but then there are so many that haven't, and the users are missing out on those add-ons not being updated properly. And I want to take Orbex as an example now. Their entire global series is still really for version 4 only. It hasn't been updated to 100% completely work and take advantage of all the features it can in version 5 and perform the way it should. It performs better than version 4. I mean, Orbex even still state on their website version 4.4 compatibility plus. So they don't actually state that it is compatible with version 5 because they know it fully isn't. I myself don't use any of the global range of Orbex. I use Photoreal. I've reworked my Photoreal to make it compatible fully with the PBR and shading of P3D version 5. It does look different in version 4 to version 5. But if you put that effort in to do this, your sim can look truly photoreal. It can look true to life. Obviously, it depends on the plane as well and the fidelity of the textures. We're still at the 1K upscaling to 4K on a lot of textures, but there are, and it does support 4K. You can create 4K textures, but you're increasing your VRAM if you do. And like Rex, their Skyforce weather engine uses true 4K textures. But when you use 4K, you open up a massive wormhole of HDR. You have those increased lines of resolution, which means you can fill it with more data of lighting and color, which mean you now have to showcase two different sets of textures. One for 4K, one for 2K and below, because they're going to look different. With the increased range of color and brightness. So there's so many developers just didn't take advantage of version 5, which means P3D version 5 has never been able to properly look the way it should, unless you take the personal time to do it yourself, which I did. I've released 3 packs which update the sky, the terrain and the oceans and show it for how it can look at its best. I've taken the time, and these packs are free, by the way. I don't sell these packs at all. You know, they're free. They're from existing add-ons, you know, that have been reworked, but they take advantage of the features of P3D version 5, the shaders, you know, and they show the sim for really what it can do. And I just feel the sad future of P3 version 5 is it will get used by a handful of people, yes, but more and more as we go into the future, as no developers now will support it, but you know, it does open the door for indie developers, which I'll get to in a second. That as developers fall off, you know, if there is an update that comes out, there's no support for your add-ons, and so, you know, people who don't want to have to tweak, they just want it all done under the hood, will move on to Microsoft and other sims in the future, and uninstall eventually P3D version 5. I can't see in 10 years time P3D version 5 being available on many people's PCs. Only the hardcore few, perhaps like myself, will have it, but I imagine most everyone will uninstall P3D version 5 within 10 years, which is a sad state really, because FSX is still installed on a lot of people's machines, even mine, and it's been 20 plus years after its release. So to say that within 12 years of P3D version 5's release no one will probably have it on their system anymore is a pretty sad state, really, because P3D version 5 is the best version of P3D ever. Like, it's far better than version 1s to 4. You know, it performs so much better than any other version. It looks far better. It has so many more features that have been added, and then the old ones have been updated as well. You know, it is a great sim, really is. So flexible that you can actually kind of design your own look of the sim. You know, you're given options of how you like the sim to run. Do you want to use textures in the sky, or do you want to use the shaders? You know, Microsoft doesn't give you any of these options. You can tweak your hardware in the menu, like how your, you know, anti-aliasing is going to look, or what quality of this and that you're going to get, but it doesn't really allow you to tweak the configurable files. A lot of the Microsoft Sim is locked off, so you can't even change anything. And it's locked off because, you know, Asobo have a design for what they want. They're listening to the community and then looking at their schedule of what they want to implement and going, right, well, the community want this one now, so let's put that on the next month's schedule, you know. But at the end of the day, they're making the sim the way they want. It doesn't matter what the community says, it's just in what order is that feature going to arrive. And Microsoft have stated 10 years. So by 2030, Microsoft, unless that sim has really taken off and, you know, people are still using it and it's still profitable, Microsoft will dump all their software onto Asobo's lap, or even possibly just end it altogether, because Microsoft don't do things that don't make money. You know, if it's making money for the community, for themselves, they will continue. If they're not, then they won't. And they've done it twice before. They've dumped, actually 3 times before. The FSX program they dumped, their flight program, which never got off the ground, they dumped, and the FLIGHTSIM world, they actually own that, they dumped as well. So it's such a possibility that that sim could get dumped. You know, now I talked about indie developers in P3D version 5. The fact that third-party, sort of the professional developers have fallen off has given way to loads of indie developers like RD Presets, the Tropical group. They create add-ons now for, you know, P3D, and you know, some are sold, some are professional, you know, selling ones, and it's basically opened up a door now for P3D community version 5 to take the sim into their own hands. You know, we've had the professionals for like Orbex, Aerosoft, whatever, for years now. They've left behind, or Orbex hasn't, I will state that. But you know, they left behind, and now indie people, indie developers can shine and hopefully keep going this platform forward. I do hope this version 5 stays on people's PCs for a long time, because I think it's great. But with the advent of P3D version 6, and I do foresee that being released within 3 years, I do think that's just going to overshadow everything, you know. And until any announcements made from Lockheed Martin, nobody knows how that's going to go. So we kind of just have to wait and see. Anyway, I think I've rambled on far too long. We're at the 30-minute mark here. But the sad state future of P3D version 5 is that I don't think within 10 years people will have it still. And that includes me. I think when P3D version 6 comes out, or with the Microsoft Sim, too many people have moved on and not given that sim its fair dues chance to shine. If more developers had stayed and more users had stayed, I do think it would be a different affair with P3D version 5, and I do think we would have had another update by now. As of making this video in August, we are waiting on 5.4, which has not even been tested yet as far as I'm aware. So, but who knows? By the end of the year, maybe one final update, you know. But the lack of community interactiveness with the P3D team, which are usually very active on Absim, but they have literally gone cold now. The lack of updates for P3D version 5 means that something's happening within Lockheed Martin P3D team. Something that they're busy working on, you know, that means that they're not active anymore on the community, and P3D version 5 is sitting there waiting for an update. I wonder what that could be. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video and exploring. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on P3D version 5 and how you use it. And I hope this video has been of some interest to you. Don't forget, I do a giveaway on my channel every month where you can win 50 euros of sim market vouchers for any sim market flight sim add-on. And all you have to do is be a subscriber to my YouTube channel and put a comment down in any one of my P3D videos. And at the last Friday of every month, when I do my vlog, my live vlog, I announce the winner, the giveaway winner. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.